Hello folks and welcome. Linux Mint 21.2 Mate. Actually, my wife has told me a couple of times, and my wife is from Argentina, that I mispronounce that word quite often. You know, I don't mean to mispronounce a lot of things, but sometimes my Icelandic English kind of, gets the best of me. But in either case, folks, humor aside, Linux Mint 21.2 Mate today. Linux Mint 21.2 has three flavors: cinnamon, mate, and XFCE. I do have another video already on cinnamon that's already posted if you want to look at that for 21.2. Alright, first of all, I'm going to talk about some information regarding mate. The code name is Victoria, and the kernel is currently 5.15 series kernel. For you folks that want to install a 5.19, I'll talk about that toward the end of this video. So Mate's version is 1.26. You can see my hardware information. This is an installed system. It is not a virtual box. Alright. This is coming off a system monitor, another tool that Mate has in its arsenal. There's lots of software. So, welcome screen. I also have this to show you toward the end of the video. This Shutdown Now button is something that if you double click, it just powers off the system almost immediately. I'm going to actually talk about, I'll talk about it now. When you use something like this, you should always save all your work, because it doesn't care what's open, it shuts down the system immediately. So use a little caution if you decide to use that. And again, I'm going to talk about the Linux kernel and this toward the end of this video. I'm going to start with documentation though. So those three flavors are available on Mint's website, the cinnamon, mate, and XFCE, for you to test drive. I encourage that you bring them up, read the new features and release notes if you're going to install. So what's new? Let's do new features. I'm going to resize the text on the fly if you don't mind. Maybe this would be better. So Mate is supported until 2027. Again, the code name is Victoria. The slick greeter is something you find in the right-hand corner of your login screen, and you click that keyboard and it has multi-layouts, and I mean a whole bunch of them. A whole bunch. So that's new. You also have an on-screen layout thing that you can click on. And then I'll keep scrolling. All my videos have timelines and chapters, and if I didn't make mention of it, I'm filming in 1920 by 1080 today. You can click your gear symbol on your YouTube player and adjust accordingly if need be. So Software Manager has a new UI refresh user interface, and it makes references to FlatHub or Flatpak software. I'll touch upon that, but I won't get into the weeds too deep. So I'll talk about a little bit about your file manager, the dark and light themes, and then I'm going to zoom in on this one. So 168 features are recorded here. I believe there's a lot under the hood also. But here's some of the little bullets that they have for what's new. So again, 21.2 comes in cinnamon, mate, and XFCE. Alright, so Clem made some screenshots of folder icons that you can see here. There's lots of themes. Lots of different ways of looking at things. Color your icons, make it lighter, dark themes, that kind of stuff. Alright, I'm going to scale that back just a little bit more. Alright, so you'll find some references in here where it makes references to cinnamon, by the way. Alright, I know I'm going kind of quickly, but I have timelines and chapters if you need to scroll back. Alright, Warpinator is a file sharing tool. If you have two computers running Warpinator and you got firewall turned on your computer and you want to receive files, you may want to look in the Warpinator area on the Setup tab, last page, and have your rules updated to your firewall. The firewall for this distribution for Mate is GovW, and it comes deactivated. You'll have to turn it on manually. But again, if you're going to use the firewall and Warpinator at the same time, you may want to use the Warpinator update your firewall rules. Alright, so artwork improvements and main components. So Mate is what the video is about today. I'm going to be talking about lots of tips and tricks. Mate 1.26. The Linux kernel is 5.15 series kernel. And if you are wanting to add the 5.19 series kernel, then hang on toward the end of the video. Ubuntu 22.04 package base. LTS long-term support strategy until 2027. I'm going to use Alt and F4 to close the web browser. You can use Alt and F4 to close anything. Alright, that's documentation. Help, there's a lot of nice folks on these web forums and IRC chat rooms. So I'm not part of that group, but I'm sure those folks can help you out. Contribute, you may want to think about contributing to Clem and his great team. He's always done great work over the years. Their desktops have been great, all of them. Alright, let's take a look at first steps. Slightly different from the Cinnamon desktop when you click the first one called Desktop Colors. So it opens up the appearance section. You have lots of themes, and I mean a lot. You also have Get More Themes Online. You can also hit the Customize button. Controls, and I mean a whole bunch of those. Window borders, icons, and pointers. Mouse pointers, mouse cursors, mouse pointers. A lot of people have different names for things. Alright, so these are installed in your USR Share Icons folder, protected by root permissions. You can also install mouse pointers in .icons. As a matter of fact, when you click the appearance section through the control center, right here, it generates a folder. And that's where I installed the locally logged in user mouse pointers, and then pick them from here. All distributions are slightly different from how you pick the mouse pointers, but they generally only get installed in two areas. USR Share Icons, that's where these are coming from, and .icons in your home folder, which is a hidden folder. Alright, the .icons one is a hidden folder in your home folder. Don't forget the resizer is in here for your size of your pointer. This is dinky, and this is large. Dinky or jumbo, official term. Just a little humor there, folks. Alright, so we have that for themes. You can also install manual ones. Now, background. Some people call them wallpapers. Backgrounds, wallpapers, different names for things. Lots of little choices. You can also open up your file manager and dump some photos, possibly in your pictures folder. Right click and set as wallpaper. I'll come back to the file manager a little bit later. Alright, so fonts, don't like the size, make it bigger. Make it smaller. You probably don't want smaller, but most people pick bigger. You get the idea. Alright, and interface. So there you have it for appearance. Really quick. System snapshot is time shift, and I do encourage that you turn it on. It'll make snapshots of your system files, not your personal. That's from default. But more importantly, at least activate the thing, just in case you have some problems logging in, because if you don't activate snapshots, you can't use it. Now I'm just going to continue. Driver manager may want to investigate. Update manager, absolutely. Make sure that your system is up to date at all times, especially for security updates. If the shield is this color, it's up to date. Okay. System settings, I'll come back to that. I'm going to be showing you several of today's video for tips and tricks. Software manager, I'll open that now. 60,000 apps are approximately available in here. You can make this full screen by double tapping on this line, or you can do it the old-fashioned way. You have featured, categories, and top rated. You have a search feature, hamburger menu, about. Another name for Mint install is Software Manager 8.2.8. If you see certain things in here like VLC, you'll see sometimes two versions. You'll click that open. You'll see a system package with the Linux Mint logo. It's the same one as in the corner down here. And you also have a flat pack version. I want you to take a look at the sizes for the download and the disk space consumption. 13 to download megabytes and 67 megabytes space required. The flat hub version, different screenshot, 1 gigabyte download, 3.3 gigabytes disk space required. If you're short on disk space, you may want to look at some of that information before you download. Flatpak software self-contained is the basic explanation for you. It has all the goodies that makes it work. Okay? So there might be reasons why you want Flatpak software. It could be version, it could be preference. You also have reviews and optional components. So keyword searches, point and click. Very simple to use software manager. You also have Synaptic Package Manager to install software and Terminal. I'll cover some of that information later. That was Software Manager. Last one is the firewall. Again, it comes deactivated. You will need to turn it on if you want to use it. All right. Documentation, help, contribute, welcome, first steps, close. What's another way to close these windows? Any window in Mint, Alt and F4, Alt and F4. Okay. First thing I'm going to talk about is these icon sizes and resizing this box. Right click on the Mint logo. You can actually see the name right there. It says in yellow, it says Linux Mint 21.2 Victoria. I added the word Linux Mint Mate on there. Right click. Sometimes I say mate. Don't mean to. And again, my wife usually corrects me when I say things like that. But since I'm Icelandic and I also speak English, so you can understand. Maybe. Maybe. Little excuses here and there. Anyways, so we have the text label. You can change that to my stuff if you like. You can also click that icon. If you like the green one, then select the green one or any other derivative of these icons. You can also browse for your own. Okay, the appearance section, maybe a good time to talk about the screenshot tool. Normally when you type in 3 little letters, SCR, it starts looking for things when you start typing. So I'm looking for this tool right here. And I do encourage that you make screenshots with anything that has numbers on it on any Linux distribution. Grab the whole desktop just means make a copy of the background, the window, and the panel bar. In other words, take a huge screenshot. The current window is this box only, and it doesn't matter where it's at. And you can literally put this on top of it. It won't take a picture of itself. It's a very cool tool. And also select area to grab is the last item. This one is my favorite. It makes for a small screenshot. This one, not so much. Because if your wallpaper is very colorful, it makes for a big file. All right, with that said, I just recommend that you take screenshots with anything to do with numbers, and that's all I'm going to say about screenshots. Moving forward, we have favorites, apps, system, and places, the sizes of those icons in these menus. All right, we have some other categories, but I'm going to talk about system for a second. The height of this box is determined by this over here. If you slide on custom, you can change that number to 800. That's the maximum. And this is 700, so let's see what that looks like. So it's a pretty tall box, if that's what you prefer. Okay, grabbing the corner does not resize. XFCE desktops do. You can grab the corner and resize. And also the Cinnamon does that now too. The new version of the Cinnamon desktop will also resize the same way. Here, just do custom height. Or just leave it at standard, your choice. You can also deactivate items in here. And places. All right, so that's pretty much the menu. Walking through, I'm not really going to spend a lot of time on these tools, but just wanted to let you see what's in here by default. And I'll tell you which ones I installed. So as you can see in the accessories box, you have Warpinator at the bottom if you want to do that file sharing thing between two computers running Warpinator. Just don't forget, in Warpinator, there's an area where you can turn on rules if you're using that firewall, the GovW firewall that comes installed on not only on Mate, but also on Cinnamon. All right, graphics, internet, Firefox is your native web browser. You have Office, LibreOffice, sound and video. I added simple screen through Terminal. Tools, admin, and preferences. I'm going to talk about a lot of these things. Okay. This one here, a lot of people will open and close because they have no idea how to use it. I'm going to make you an Amazon icon, but you can watch my other videos using web apps. So I'm going to hit plus. It's pretty easy to use. A lot of people go here and go, I'm going to look for the manual, and you won't find one. You will find an FAQ and a README file here on this website. That's all you'll find. That's why folks like myself make these kind of videos. Anyways, for Mate, it's 1.3.2 on the latest version. That's the version of web apps. Web apps is used to make web-based icons. They look exactly like the ones that are in here. Except any user can do this without coding skills. So I'm going to hit the plus key. I'm going to type in Amazon. You don't have to use the word Amazon. You can use A if you like. Now, the web address can be copied in from web browsers. So if you have a favorite link, you can also use that as a web address, or you can hand type it, your choice. www.amazon.com. All right, so it's not going to find all your icons, trust me. I'm just going to be fair about it. However, you can find a lot of icons also online by clicking that, and sometimes 2 or 3 times. You can also manually assign icons, including emojis if you like. They're just icons. All right, so I got a name, I got an address, and the category web is going to be created when I finish that, and it'll add it in here, and it'll say web in here. Firefox is the only web browser, so I'm going to stick with that. You can see I have no more selection. Custom parameters, if you need to know what they are, I have a current video that is on web apps for Linux Mint 21.1 Cinnamon that you can look at. Navigation bar I'm fond of. Private incognito, not so much. I don't use them on anything. I'm done. I'm not even going to test it. I could launch it and test it or double click, but I'm going to close it. Now a new category has been added, web. All right, so there's 2 things I'm going to talk about, Cinnamon Desktop versus the Mate. Mate, you can click and drag this icon on your desktop, just like that. Also, you can drag it on your panel, but not in between here. You can do that on a Cinnamon desktop, drag them in between here, but you can't add this icon to the desktop like I did just here. For a Cinnamon desktop, you'd right click and add to desktop. You can also do this here. Add to desktop, add to panel, and show in favorites. I'll show that in the next pass. This icon can also be moved around all the way up to here, and then all the way up to somewhere in this area here. Okay, so I'm going to leave it in the center. I'm going to click on it. It's a single click. I get the privacy notice, I'm going to get rid of it. It's up to Mozilla Firefox if I have an account with whatever web page I'm on. I can also resize text my way. I can go 30% all the way up to 500 on a Firefox web browser. Holding down my control key on my keyboard while scrolling my USB-based mouse. Once I get it to the size I want, like 130%, I let go of the control key and I can scroll normally. Double click, resize, resize, close. Double click. Same thing, just has the show me. It only shows that once normally. But again, it's up to Mozilla to keep tabs of that. You notice it's still holding the 130%. So these icons are semi-linked, aren't they? It's actually the web page. All right, different way of doing things. Remove, and I'm going to delete this one. Right-click, add to desktop. Right-click, add to panel. Puts it here, puts it here. That's the same deal. They're still single clicks, but I can click and drag this over to here if I don't like it over there. And I can go as far as going on this side. Unlike the Cinnamon desktop, you can't normally do that on a Cinnamon desktop. So there's a lot of pluses and minuses depending on the desktop. Right click, remove, and remove. And it will remain in here until I go in here and I could uninstall it, which I normally don't do, but I go in here and I do a remove. And it allows me to confirm, and that icon is now gone. So is the category, because I don't have any more icons. All right, so you can create a whole bunch of these things if you like. All right, so system reports, system information. For you folks that want to know about your motherboard, it's right here. So if you do it like this, right click, copy. Little tip for you. Open up your browser, paste that in the search field, and hit enter. This is what my motherboard looks like. This is coming from MSI, Microstar. Okay, so basically, you're just looking at the website or looking for information. You could have used that part of it too. Just a little tip for you. Let me continue. All right, so there's lots of little tips and tricks. All right, right clicking on your panel, properties. Don't like the height, change it. You want it to auto hide, click that. You want it on the bottom, you want it on the top. Bottom it is. Right click, add to panel. Lots of toys for a panel. I'm going to show you a couple of them. Classic menus 1 looks like this. Okay, this is not the same shutdown as this one. This is the same shutdown though, 60 seconds, as this one. Alright, I'm going to move that over to here. Right click, move that over to here. That's all up to you. Right click, remove. The compact menu one is here also. It looks like that. That's the compact menu, colorful icons. Again, right click, move. Simple way of doing things. Right click, remove. One more. Mint menu, add. This has the same logo as this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this briefly. Right click on this, hit preferences, and I'm going to actually cut this by using Control X. So let me grab a hold of this whole thing. I'm going to cut that out and close it. That now is just the logo by itself. So I'm going to paste it back in here, and this will also receive the same because they're linked. All right, now you see what I'm talking about. Right click, move. Right click, move. You get the idea. Okay, remove from panel. Right click, add one more item. Again, there's a whole bunch of toys. I'm only going to show this one here. Now I'm going to do this very differently. Instead of clicking that and this, I'm going to drag the whole icon with it or double click. Here, let me do this again. Remove from panel, drag and drop. Remove from panel, double click. Either way, this icon does the 60-second thing. This will not do that. It's the same as this icon. Right click, remove from panel. Hopefully that was valuable information for you. Starting over here, we have the calendar and time thing. My subscription key could be covering part of this, but in general, you would click that and get the calendar and click it again to close it. You can also right click on the icon or the time and date thing and hit preferences. And in general, you have your 12-hour, 24. 24 will be default, and then you can show or not show these items. You can also click weather location, find your location. Don't forget to add the Fahrenheit or Celsius to alter that in case you do that. The time settings are here. Okay, so that's the icon. So your volume thing is here. You can right click and hit sound preferences to get hardware input and output also. All right, wireless thing. I'm going to skip over that. System updater, you can right click and refresh to check for updates if you're in a hurry. If you got a dot, that means you got something going on. Microphone, simple screen recorder, Bluetooth I have turned off. I don't have any Bluetooth stuff for you. File manager, resize, is Kaja. The file manager for the Cinnamon desktop is Nemo 1.2.6.0. The file manager for Mate is Kaja. Okay. You have places. You can also sort this differently. You can also make this bigger or smaller. You can also resize the icons my way. This is the smallest, this is the biggest, and in between. You can also resize it the system way. Click zoom in and out and normal size. That Control 0, not Control O. Control 0 makes normal size icons. Let me demonstrate that. Control 0. Holding down that control key, plus, plus, plus to make it bigger, bigger, bigger. Holding the control key, minus, minus, minus makes things smaller. I'm going to substitute the plus, the minus, and the 0 all in one shot by holding down my control key, using my USB-based computer mouse scroll wheel to scroll forward, scroll backwards, scroll forward, scroll backwards. This should work on your regular USB mouse or your standard mouse. And also if you got a touchpad, you may want to try this, holding down the control key, taking 2 fingers and slide them up and down. If not, you can certainly do it the old-fashioned way. All right, so since this is Kaja and not Nemo, when I click that image and hit the space bar, it's just going to open this up in Xviewer. Okay, in the Cinnamon desktop, it gives me a preview with this behavior turned on for double click file management behavior. All right, so it doesn't matter if I double click, it's still Xviewer no matter what. Or if I just click the image and hit the space bar, it opens that up anyways. And spacebar again just cycles through the different images. Close. I could also use Alt F4. So if I were to open that and use Alt and F4, that also closes the box. And I'll use Alt F4 to close this one and continue. So that's the file manager. Typical install command is number 1. Sudo apt install. Super user do. Space apt space install. Simple screen recorder. One word is my simple screen recorder software that I'm running. Typical install command. Alt and F4. I think I brought up Synaptic, or if I didn't, we'll talk about that next. Control center. Backup tool for personal stuff. Driver manager, fairly self-explanatory. Login window, not really going to cover in this video. Printers, you can add some. Mine is auto-discovered. It's a network printer. Software manager, I think I opened that up earlier. The software sources I'm going to open up through Synaptic Package Manager and give you that information right now. 71,324 packages are currently listed in here. 2126 are installed. The software is coming from Linux Mint and Ubuntu. Ubuntu. All right, mispronounced maybe. All right, so the Flatpak software for Software Manager is not listed here. Okay, FYI. So you got more than 71,000. Close. System reports, again, if you're looking for that motherboard information, yours would be listed in here somewhere. Close. Date and time is not where you change the time, it's where you change your time zone and synchronization. So if you're doing the time thing, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to click on that. I meant to right click on it. Preferences. There's your time settings. All right, moving along. Update manager, fairly self-explanatory. Again, it's right click, refresh, and I'll come back to that talking about Linux kernels a little bit later. Adding users, Bluetooth stuff, I don't have any to demo for you. This is GNOME Disk Utility. I actually have a dedicated video on that, an older one. Displays. If you're going to play with the resolution and refresh rate, as you can see, I have some different selections, including 4K. And you hit apply and the screen goes black for more than 6 seconds. Don't touch the keyboard. Don't click on your mouse. Allow it to time out. It normally reverts back to your last working resolution. You also have scaling in here you can try out. Again, everybody's monitor and graphics cards are different. Okay, so some of you folks may not have these options. Close and continue. I'm going to skip over keyboard and click on keyboard shortcuts. You may want to investigate some of those to be familiar with them. Okay, close that. Mouse, pointer speed, drag, and double. It's not the mouse selection and the size of the mouse. That's done through appearance. Power management, you may want to investigate that option. And power management and the screensaver kind of play together. Just wanted to point that out. It's a little bit down the tree here. It's this one. So these two guys kind of play together. So the sound thing can be achieved here, or you can right click on the icon itself and get the same dialog box. Advanced configuration, I'm going to skip over. Firewall, again, is GovW and it comes turned off. You can turn it on rather easily. Network proxy, I'm going to skip over. Now the next one I'm going to talk about and surprise some people because a lot of folks don't know this. But in Linux Mint, it auto-generates one folder when you click that. On some distribution it does the same, and on some not so much. And that folder is in your home folder. My home user for today is Mint 212. In other words, 21.2. Control H shows hidden files and folders. This specific folder is generated or checked when you click that. When you click Appearance, it checks to see if that folder is there. If it is missing, it generates it. If it is there, it leaves it alone. Whether you have one or more items or none, as long as the folder is there, it doesn't generate one. There's currently nothing in here, but I'm going to delete it on purpose. As soon as I click that, it generates another one. Let me try to move this over a little bit. Yeah, it almost covered it up, but it generated it nonetheless. What do I put in here? These things right here. Mouse pointers, mouse cursors. These guys. If you've seen any of my videos, I put colorful ones in here. I can put sometimes 10 at a time. I do them in bulk. Sometimes I install one or two, but most of the time I install 3 or 4 at the same time. And they'll appear in this menu, depending on the desktop that I'm using. There's only 2 places mouse pointers are installed on most, if not all, Linux systems. Dot icons in the local user, or the USR share icons folder. That's where these are coming from. However, if you install a mouse pointer or cursor in here, it will appear in this menu if you did it properly. I have plenty of videos for that. Don't forget the resizer over here. From the official word of dinky to the official word of jumbo. In other words, small or large. Just a little bit more humor there, folks. So anyways, I'm done talking about that, and I'm going to continue now. So just keep that in mind. It auto-generates that in Mint. And on some distributions, you have to manually create that folder. Moving along. CompWis is more for medium to advanced users. Desktop settings, if you need to have icons on your desktop, you can certainly do that. I'm just clicking those. Under Windows, if you don't like the little buttons over here on the right and you want them on the left, then do that. You'll also notice that switched over here. And as I put my file manager up, it's also over here. Your choice. It's instantaneous. All right, there's really not much else I'm going to talk about in here. And I'm going to close that. So there you have that for desktop settings. Input method, different languages. Speaking of, I'm using English today. And main menu, more meant for medium to advanced users for all kinds of tips and tricks. I may do a video on that later if I get some interest. Pop-up notifications, Qt5 settings, and screensaver I'll open, especially for new users. You can change that little stuff, and you can also change the timing. Close. And screensaver and power management kind of play together. Keep that in mind. Welcome screen is self-explanatory. Window properties, really not going to click on. Same thing with about and assistive. You can click that on your own. Preferred, let's just one example. If you don't like the media player and you've got some others installed, then go ahead and swap them. That becomes your default media player. That kind of stuff. And startup apps, not really going to talk about. Again, this video is fairly for new users, if I can say the word. All right. So I talked about adding the toys and the different types. Again, there's different menus, different toys. I talked about this, and let's talk about the Linux kernel now. All right, I'm only going to say this once. If the Linux kernel is working for you, everything's working, software, hardware, I would just leave it alone. However, for the folks that want to be some adventuresome, take at least a screenshot of this or possibly a digital camera or smartphone. And just going to show you that there's 5.19 series kernels in here. I'm currently running the 5.15. Let me open up NeoFetch for a second. It's just another way of getting system information. So that's using a 5.15-76 kernel, which is located right here. Okay, I'm going to close that box. So that is your active kernel, the one that you're currently using. It says active on it. And this will keep growing. So today's date is July 18th. Maybe 2 days from now, that'll be 77 or 78. However, you can install the 5.19 kernels. But again, one more time, if everything is working fine, unless you want to be adventuresome, you probably don't need it. But maybe if you want to, you can certainly do that. And when you do, it'll change some files in your boot up system, and more importantly, you can always revert back to your previous kernel. Okay, it never deletes the current kernel. Okay, that said, I'm going to continue. Now, this button here, I'm going to talk about for a second. It's very simple to make. It's only one command. But what this thing does is very powerful. By double clicking on this thing, it doesn't matter if I got Simple Screen Recorder open and a whole bunch of files. It will shut down my system, no questions asked. So use this very carefully if you're going to do this. Okay? Shut down your, save your files first before using something like that. It's not going to ask you anything. It's when you double click, it shuts down the system. Unlike this, you have 60 seconds to think about it. Okay? I'll show you how to make this. Right click, create launcher. Give it a name, give it a command. All right? The icon is going to be generic. That's all you need to do. Give it a name, give it a command. So what is the command? The command is shutdown, lowercase, space now. That's it. The icon I got off the internet. I downloaded that, I threw it in a folder. You can put any icons you want. You can put any icon you want. Find one in your system, find something off the internet, put it in a folder, assign it to that. That's all up to you. But that's the command. So if I double click on this, it'll terminate my video immediately. I don't want to do that. But I just wanted to show you how to create one of these, if you want it. But like I said, before you use it, save your stuff. Thank you for watching.